Personal branding is a story to tell about you when you're not in the room. It's been a buzzword for many years. This week, me and Ams, we're going to be talking about it. If you don't know us, we're both junior doctors working in London and the co-founders of Peerr. Ams, what do you think of personal branding? What does it mean for you?
Personal branding. So, talking about in this day and age, you can't ignore it. Yeah, it reminds me of when we were talking about TikTok. Do you remember at one point, TikTok, we thought it was about like kids just dancing on the social media platform. You ignore it, and now everyone's on it. So you're sort of, everyone's on it as well. You're on it as well. So personal branding, you can't ignore, all right? And it's, as you said, right, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So when someone says, do you know Abdaal? What's the first thing do you think people say about you? When they say, do you know Abdaal?
I don't know. I think it's changed over the years, but more recently, it's all about kind of side hustles, entrepreneurship. Peer probably gets thrown around a lot now. Entrepreneurship and side hustles, especially as working clinicians, as junior doctors.
Exactly. So it's exactly those things. So when you're not in the room and I'm talking to other people about you, they often know that A, you're a doctor, B, you went to King's. They often actually also know that you've done the the regenerative medicine and innovation BSc. They'll know about your projects that you've done. They know how you think. They know that you're very interested in also sort of the income aspect of things, about developing passive incomes. The next question is though, are you happy with that?
I think.
And did you intend it?
So this is the funny thing with personal branding. I think me and you both, we ended up developing a personal brand that works for us, that's true to us. But we didn't set out to create a personal brand, right? When we started all of this, when we started the podcast, when we started Peerr and podcasts, whatever we didn't consciously think, all right, I need to have a particular bio, I need to be on a particular platform, I need to put out certain type of content so people associate entrepreneurship or clinical entrepreneurship with me. It's a brand that's naturally developed for us. And as soon as we realized that personal branding is a thing, we honed in on it. We then started to go and develop this image around us, right? So the example I use is, look at people like Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey, man. Their personal branding is amazing, and the content and the type of stuff they put out there, it feeds into that brand. That brand of, Elon Musk, he wants to save the world. He wants to go to Mars. He's always talking about electric cars. He's always talking about Dogecoin. He's always talking about Bitcoin in a weird way. And he's always talking about rockets, right? And people in any part of the world, when you tell them, what do you think of Elon Musk? You know exactly what he's about, right? And I think he does it in a very clever way. And I know he's doing it on purpose. Do you know what I mean? He's not out here sharing his opinions and everything. Why does he never talk about all the random stuff in the world? Why is it very specific to this type of things?
So I get the point of being specific, right, in your personal branding, but then does that limit you to what you can talk about? So for example, what other passions do you have outside of entrepreneurship, passive income, startups? What other passion do you have?
Crypto, charity, obviously that's our passion. Learning about marketing, design, content creation.
So do you feel that when you're developing a personal brand, you can't veer off always tweeting about entrepreneurship, always tweeting about developing passive income, teaching, the podcast, etc., etc.? Do you feel you have to always narrow down in then?
So when you're developing or building a personal brand, it's like a guide. It's your morals, your values, your ethos in life, right? But you're not tied down to it. You're not chained to it. You don't need to make sure every tweet, like look at my Twitter, right? Most often it's about Peerr, most often about entrepreneurship, educators deserving fair equity, earning passive income. But on the random day, I'm tweeting about Netflix recommendations or book recommendations, or I'm saying, I just got messed over by the crypto markets. Do you see? So my overarching theme and aim is to share knowledge and about entrepreneurship, let's say that. But it doesn't mean I can't share my other stuff I'm passionate about or I'm genuine about or enjoy.
So it's true to you, right? It's true to you. On the point of sort of authenticity now, I think that's what it is. So I think talking about personal branding, if I go back and reflect on how I was in medical school, right? And again, I wasn't consciously developing a personal brand. It's just about how I use social media, what I put out there, what posts I put out there. It was often related to research, academia, certain charity projects, certain research projects, etc., etc. So I had that personal brand about when people talked about me, it was often in the sense of
academia. And
Yeah.
said it. Yeah.
I mean, you sat in a room before recruiting me for MAR. What was being said?
Yeah, so this is a good example. So at university, like if I had to say what were the 2 or 3 things that people attributed to you, it was academia and research, excelling in your exams, your first center ranked student, and it was kind of running merge, society, president, all of these type of things, right? But very academic, very research orientated. When me and Akil were in the library picking out who's going to look after what aspect of MAR while we were a growing charity, you know, we had someone that was very good, very bubbly, very good personality looking after the volunteers. And then academia and innovation was such a big thing. And it was like, we need someone that's already excelling academically, already research orientated. And it was you. The first person that came to our head was Ams is the person. There are other people that are doing well at medical school, doing well at research, but your name came up. And in essence, that was the story we knew about you. This is the guy we need to bring on to help MAR grow academically.
So I think that's, and on my sort of end of the spectrum, that's the power of personal branding. Up until me being headhunted, I was always head in the books. Suddenly I'm now exposed to a different world because someone comes knocking on my door.
So how do you feel about that though? Let's say we're in a room, me and Akil, we're discussing, okay, this person's going to do this person's going to do that. How did you feel that we associated academia, studying, research to you? Were you happy with that branding attached to you, or do you think, oh, do you know what, but that's not me though, I only did it to excel in school, I care more about content creation, or I care more about music and photography?
So yeah, so at the time it was absolutely authentic to me. So that is who I was. Those words that you used, that's exactly who I am. I had my head always in the books. I was always in the library. I was always studying. I was always reading. I read that book, you know, that how to write and read a paper. So I read those books that not everyone was reading. So no, I was, when you guys told me about that discussion, I was like, yeah, that's exactly who I am. It resonates with me, and it matches the opportunity that came to me as well. Because if it was an opportunity, for example, if you came to me and said, I want you to make social media posts, or I want you to do YouTube videos, at the time I had no interest. I would say no. But it came with an opportunity that matched who I was. So I think that's the thing. So with personal branding, again, that was all sort of unintentional, right? That's who I was, and that's the personal branding that developed around me. So it was authentic to me. And then I think what's happened is it's evolved, the personal branding. It's evolved. And again, what I do is just, in the words of, is it Imran Qureshi who said it? Just be authentic to who you are. He was a surgeon, a GP, and he found his feet as a microbiology consultant. So it's just, it can evolve, but it's just about stay true to who you are. I've stayed true to who I am. As we enter the world of entrepreneurship, content creation, suddenly my whole branding has changed. I don't think that people will say as much about me anymore.
So then that goes on to the question is, when you have a particular personal brand, you're an academic, you're a clinician, you're doing well, do you need to stick to a specific personal branding, or can your personal brand change as you develop and grow as a person?
So obviously it can change, because my one has changed. I'd say mine has changed, but I think it's not just changed and evolved. It's sort of, you've added different elements and bits to it as well. So for example, the other day, I was speaking to someone about QIP projects, how to do a full cycle, how to get it published, how to present it. I still know all of that. I still know the tricks of the trade, because the trade hasn't changed. If the trade changes, so for example, if you ask someone who used to do marketing in, let's say, 1960s, and then they quit in 1980s, I mean, they're a bit outdated now. Social media and everything has changed the game. But as long as the trade is the same, I still know the tricks of the trade. So I was able to give them that. So, and they found me through Instagram, through Twitter, and etc., to ask me that question. So I think remnants of that is still there. But now I also get questions that have never been asked before. So about things like entrepreneurship. How do you start a hustle? How do you start a business? How do you create a logo? How do you do social media design? Things like that. So I think it evolves, but it also, remnants remain as long as the environment is the same. What about you? What do you think?
I think, similar to what we discussed last time, is the same way your passions and ambitions in life can change as you develop and grow, as things change in your life. I think your personal branding can change, and I think it should change with your passions and your purpose in life. if you're no longer an academic, if you're no longer a researcher, there's no point having a personal brand related to that if you no longer have any fun and enjoyment from it, and now you're maybe a photographer. It doesn't make sense, right?
So saying that, what's the purpose then of a personal brand? So you're saying if you're not a researcher, stop. Basically, if you previously had a research background and had that sort of personal background, what is the purpose for people sitting out there thinking, okay, so what's the purpose?
I think when it comes to like personal branding, and if you want to break it down into what do you gain from having a strong personal brand, or what do you gain by building a personal brand, the first thing I would say that comes to my head is opportunities.
Yes.
Personal branding opens the doors of opportunities. And let me explain that to you, if I can. It's when you are out there and you are putting out a certain persona, if you are letting the world know that you're an individual that, let's use photography as an example, right? So you're out there in the world sharing to the world that you love photography. You're always up to date with all the new lenses that come out, all the new cameras that come out. You're always going to different places to do photo shoots, right? When people know that Ams is a budding photographer, you might have an opportunity where you might need an extra pair of hands, or you might need an extra pair of hands to help you review a product, or you need someone to shoot something for you. And you're like, hey, do you know what? Who do I know? Ams, he's so passionate about photography. He's always sharing things. We got like-minded. And now you've got an opportunity to go join this individual, do a photo shoot, or be able to use a lens or a camera that you wouldn't have normally had access to, right? And it's selling points. Let's say you are a photographer and our passion is passive income, right? You're building this brand about photography. You're sharing your work online. There may come a time where people, hey, do you know what? I'm going to commission him to come and do a photo shoot. I'm going to commission him to come and do a headshot. That's putting yourself out there, building your personal brand, and opening doors of opportunity. It's your unique selling points in a way.
Can people be who they're not?
100%. I know for a fact you can. At the same time, it's very easy to build a fake persona online, like a fake brand online. And because it's a one-way street, meaning when you're building a brand online or when you're online, you are only putting out content, right? You can have a particular buy. You can lie and say you're a doctor when you're not a doctor. You can say you're a startup that exited for millions of pounds, right? Who are we to know and check, right? Do you know what I mean, right? So you're putting out content, right? And things on the internet is so easily researched, you can put it out. Only when do you meet this person in real life, or when you're having a meeting, then you can tell, oh, do you know what? Actually, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or actually, do you know what? He doesn't really have a passion for entrepreneurship. He's got a different agenda. Because you're putting out content, and that's the perception I have of you. So personal branding, like the textbook definition, is essentially the image you create intentionally online, digitally, based around your ethics, morals, accomplishments, or whatever it is. But that's what I see of you, and whatever you put out is what I see. Social media. Think of all these couples or people that are so happy online. I don't know. Do you know if those couples are happy or these people are living their best life?
Exactly. No, it's only the highlights. Exactly. But that's what it is, though. So I think with personal branding, you can't forget that point, because if you are putting out something very controlled, who you're not, when that opportunity comes to your doorstep and someone's saying, do this job, when you're sitting there, you'll be found out very quickly.
You're a fake photographer, a budding photographer. Going back to that example, right? And then you get a message, do you know what? We're willing to give you 50 quid to come and do a headshot, right? And you rock up, but you don't have the right camera again.
iPhone and just...
You know what I mean? You're going to get caught out, right? And the main thing is you're not authentic, you're not being credible. And I know over time, authenticity and credibility wins. I can't say is it a week, is it a month, is it a year, but I know over time, authenticity, credibility wins. If people know that, do you know what, he's not genuine in his personal branding, he's doing something for a different agenda, then you will come out and people will know.
You know what, saying that though, I was just thinking, it'd be very, very exhausting to have a fake persona, because think about it, that's a lot of hard work into creating posts and showing a life that is not you. So I think being authentic to who yourself are with all your social media, with who you are in person as well, what will happen is that you'll find that it's effortless. So for example, that all that research, academia, that personal brand, it was effortless because that's who I was. And who I am now is, I love being an entrepreneur. I love growing and talking about Peerr. I love talking about these conversations that we're having for the YouTube channel and everything. It's who I am now. So the question now is, though, is personal branding all digital?
Yeah, I think before that question, this is even more of an interesting one, is I think there are people out there that may be creating fake branding, fake personal brands, right? Do you think people can copy other personal brands because it works? Before we discuss it with digital. And I'm saying that, and I'll give you my example. Like, have you seen people copy other famous people, other people that have a very good personal brand? And do you think that's legit?
So let's talk about, remove the word personal. Yeah, it's a brand. It's a brand. So can you copy a brand? I think you can copy a brand, but this is you can copy a brand. I can dress like you. I can talk like you. I can wear glasses like you. I can post like you. I can if you drive a nice flashy car, I'll go and rent one and I'll take a couple of snaps to show I'm living the high life as well. Or if it's whatever it is, you can copy it. But this is the thing that happens. You're found out very easily. You're found out very easily because people say, "Oh, that's very similar to him." Yeah. Because the person who does it very effortlessly, they're just constantly there. So if you're trying to be fake and copy, be ready to copy for the rest of your life. Yeah. So I think people spot it. So if it's say you're a shoe brand and you're copying all of Nike's designs, it's gonna be obvious. If you're a platform, if you're a social media, if you're a YouTube channel and you're trying to copy, you get found out very, very easily. Yeah. That doesn't mean that your content can't be similar. So the Austin Kleon book, Show Your Work, and I think he also has another book, something like Copy Like a Pro or something like that. The idea that there's very few original topics out there now. So think about it, we're talking about personal branding. If you YouTube that, there'll be 1,000 videos on that. It's nothing new. But what's unique is our perspectives. What's unique is who we are and our views and how we talk about the matter. So I think you can copy a brand, you can copy a person, you can copy everything and anything, but you'll be found out very easily, and you're going to be always chasing their tails. Yeah. Always chasing their tails.
I'm saying that because I remembered Ali Abdaal, medical YouTuber, doctor, turned entrepreneur, passive income. Everyone knows about him, right? Everyone knows about the Ali Abdaal brand. Yes. It is a brand. It is. And remember, maybe last year or before that COVID time, so many people were becoming medical YouTubers. But it felt as if all of them were doing Ali Abdaal style. We know people, creators, that their videos were like literally a different person, but the editing, the style was like Ali Abdaal. The way they did stuff was like Ali Abdaal, right? Yeah, and I'm thinking, are they copying a brand that's successful like Ali Abdaal and not being true to themselves? And how long can that last for? And I remember we said, there's hundreds of medical YouTubers now, and we said, remember, this guy, this individual's doing a lot of stuff similar to Ali Abdaal. Will he last? And I have a feeling at one point they're going to realize this is not them. Although Ali Abdaal has had success in his own right, you can't copy his branding to see the same success.
Exactly. No, but the other thing is that, so a lot of people want to have what Ali Abdaal has, right? So whatever he has, the YouTube subscribers, the branding, the sponsorship deals, maybe the materialistic things that he's got as well, right? People want the thing, but also do people want the things that he does to get there? Yeah. So right, he doesn't sit on his chair all day, chilling out in the sun, just drinking coffee. He is grafting, right? So I think a lot of people, they created a YouTube channel and then they realized, oh shit, man, Ali Abdaal says put out a video a week. Yeah. Then he says
sometimes two videos.
And then he talks about hiring. Wait, hold on. Hiring comes with an expenditure, but it also comes with managing someone, right? Suddenly you're now managing someone you've employed to edit your videos. So I think it comes with a lot of things. And then you realize, oh wait, I don't want to do all of this. I just want the end point. And if you notice, we talked about all that gush of YouTubers that all
podcasters. It was podcasting as well.
Exactly. When we came onto the scene as well, there was a lot of people with us. But if it's not something you enjoy, if it's not something you like doing, if it doesn't fall into your passions and interests and everything that comes with it, what happens? You fall away like flies, right? And if you notice, a lot of those people have stopped creating altogether. They've just disappeared. They've vanished because it wasn't who they were.
I think it was a hype, and I think the thing with personal branding and all of this type of stuff is you see other people doing well, they're very successful in their own right, and you think it's very easy to go and copy and do what they're doing, and then you fail to realize the graft that goes into it. Exactly. But yeah, before we went on that sidetrack, do I think personal branding is a digital thing? Yeah. I think there is an emphasis on having personal branding. It is predominantly seen as digital. It's online. people are spending a lot more time and their attention on online and digitally. But I think personal branding can also extend into kind of the real world physically, right? It's when you meet people for the first time, or when you're having conversations, it's what are the topics you most often talk about? What are the discussions you most often have with your friends? I think personal branding is something that's easier to see and tangible online because you're seeing it in print, right? Your bio is going to be like a budding entrepreneur or a budding surgeon, or I'm interested in cardiothoracic surgery, right? But I think an extension of it does come into the real world where you are having these conversations, when you are meeting people. And I think it just adds to your personal branding.
No, I agree. So when you're at networking events, when you're in person at any events, and exactly what you talk about, how you talk about things, your personal view, how you come across, all of those things, people will then match it to what you put out digitally.
So what I'd say is easier to share your personal brand online than it is in real life.
Absolutely.
You're not walking around with a sign on your forehead saying, I'm a budding entrepreneur, or I'm a budding photographer, or I like music. Right? It's only when people get to know you, have conversations with you, and then realize, do you know what, I'm as interested in X, Y, and Z. Obviously, when you're online, if someone doesn't even know you, the first thing they're going to be looking at is your picture, your personal bio. They're going to have a quick scroll through your feed and be like, okay, cool, he's into this type of stuff. This is his brand. Do you see what I mean?
So saying that, say you've got a certain personal brand, right? Let's talk about the negatives first. What's the negatives of having these brand words over you? So, entrepreneur, you're an academic, you're someone who's all about charity work or X, Y, and Z. What's the negative effects of those labels being attached to you?
The same way building a strong brand opens up opportunities for you, the same way at times it can take opportunities away, right? Most often than not, it's not the case, but I think if someone sees, let's say you back in medical school that had strong branding around academia, research, innovation, right? And we're looking for someone that does content creation, or we're looking for someone that's maybe wants to do a YouTube video, right? You may as well had a passion for that. You may enjoyed that, right? But we're not going to be like, do you know what? Let's give it to Ams. Let's see what he can do, right? So opportunities are taken away from you. But I don't think that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is people attach this brand to you, and then sometimes when you do something outside the box, they don't think you're genuine anymore. They think you're not inauthentic. Individuals get stuck to build. They're so caught up in this personal branding thing, and it's like they're chained to it. Every tweet, every post, every story needs to be something that builds a personal branding, and that doesn't need to be the case. Then it becomes very toxic. Like whenever I feel like, do you know what? I've seen an amazing documentary on Netflix, and it's not productivity, it's not it's Peaky Blinders or something crazy, like a waste of time, right? I feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel I'm tied down to a certain personal brand where I'm like, okay, if I do this tweet, is it gonna hurt my brand? If I do this thing, is it gonna hurt the sponsorship deals I get? Do you see what I mean? It's when you get caught up in the personal branding, and then it starts to dictate what you do. You can't be yourself anymore.
What about cancel culture then? Because if you think about it, there's a lot of people that have veered off and commented on something, and then suddenly social media has gone up in a blaze to cancel them.
I think cancel culture would always exist. Anyone that's in the public eye, anyone that's in the public domain, that's putting out content, putting out thoughts, opinions, or whatever there is, that cancel culture will exist. It's got nothing to do with the personal branding. Like, people are canceling people. It's about what you say. It's about what you say. So, irrespective of the personal brand Oprah Winfrey has, or Elon Musk has, or Bill Gates has, right? He can get cancelled for anything.
That's true.
You know what cancel culture I think cancel culture is from when people see you say something that they don't like.
Exactly. Or a group of people don't like.
Right? Whoever it is, right? And it's got nothing to do with the branding. It's got nothing to do with entrepreneurship. In fact, you might even be correct in your terminology. You might be correct in the statistic you say, but they don't like it, so they're going to come and cancel you, right? So I don't think personal brand...
Come and culture you.
They're going to cancel you, right?
They're going to give you a culture.
Essentially, I don't think cancel culture and personal branding is connected. Anyone can be cancelled. There are people that are not even on social media getting cancelled, and they don't even know about it.
So on that front then, I do agree with so I read about the spotlight effect, right? The idea that you think everyone is watching you, the idea that everyone really, really, really cares about you and really invested into everything you say and do. So it's obviously not true. We internally see that as if we're under a spotlight. But I think you're right. When you want to tweet something that's not in line with your personal branding, maybe it's an interest, a side passion of yours, I think it's absolutely fine, because I think what it does is, so it's part of your personality. I think you can't forget, you're not just a robot, right? You're not just this machine that publishes articles or creates social media posts or only does YouTube videos. There's a personality behind it. And if you, again, let's go back to the Ali Abdaal topic. He's got a personality around him, right? There's a certain style which is him, right? And then so he's created videos that have been identical to also other creators, right? Yeah. Same topic. Let's say the productivity topics. Yeah, everyone does productivity. Yeah. Everyone does that, all right? But there's different styles. And if you notice, your audience and who's watching them will differ. Some people will say, I prefer Nathaniel Drew or someone like that talking about a particular topic rather than him. And the opposite way. He's also talked about crypto. Yeah. But there's also other guys that talk about crypto. Depends on who the audience is and who they prefer. So I think when you're tweeting, I think you don't need to be restricted to your personal brand. You can tweet about other things. You can post other things. You can put things on your story, etc., and look to put out your personality, put out who you are. So when someone says also, I've got a research opportunity, but you know what? He can also create social media posts. Maybe he can do something else as well. And you've now got a certain flavor to what you do, and extra dimension. So I don't know, you might do research, and then to create a campaign, you might create a social media campaign, but you're one person who's done both things. So I think it's okay to also diversify yourself. I think it's okay.
And I think it goes back to opportunities. It's like when you're building your personal brand, you can talk about lots of different things loosely. These are my passions, these are my interests, and over time you will naturally hone down on the one or two things that resonate with you the most, and that's where you kind of focus your branding on. And these are things that will come to you naturally. These are the things you enjoy. If you hate it, you're not going to last. It's not going to work. Long story short. So I think personal branding is always a tricky one. And I remember James, when we had him on the past podcast, who does some X now, is like, the question was, how do you know what your personal branding is? So if I were to say to you, Ams, let's say you've heard this video, you've heard lots of talks about other people, how do you discover what your personal brand is, and how do you build on it? So let's focus on the first one. How do you think you discover what your personal brand is?
I think the way to discover, so you could do two things. I think you could first just go through what's out there about you. Google yourself. I used to do that. I used to, back in med school, Google what happens when someone types in my name. Because for someone that doesn't know you, the first thing they usually do is Google you. Their LinkedIn, check out your LinkedIn profile, your Twitter profile, your Facebook profile. See what comes up. See what they see first, and see what it looks like objectively, right? Then you can ask someone. You can ask your friend. You can ask a colleague. What would you ask me? Say, how would you describe me in 3-4 words only? Words only, not sentences. Words only. And then you can see, okay, is there a pattern that's developing? So I think that's a good way to find out what your personal brand is. But I think if you wanted to now start to form a personal brand, I think what you could do, you could start to just brainstorm. What are my interests? What are my passions? What do I like? What do I hate? What is the career that I want to go into? What career am I in? If you have to think about income, of course. Everyone's got bills to pay. Everyone's got rent over their heads, or a mortgage, or food to put into their mouth. So you have to think about, where's my income stream going to come from? And I think looking for that intersect. And I think if that intersect meets you, then I think you've found your personal brand. And then so think about what you're putting out there, what you're not putting out there. And I think, like you said, it's who you are. It's who you are. You're going to naturally post, I love this show. You're going to naturally post, I hate this show. You're naturally going to comment on things that intrigue you. You're going to naturally watch YouTube videos that you're inclined to, and the algorithm will show you more. So I think that's one thing. And I think personal branding, one of the goals of it, one of the purposes of it, was also to expose yourself, to increase your surface area for opportunities, right? So you need to think about what you're engaging with, where you're engaging. So for example, if you're watching a YouTube video and you've got a question, put a comment down. Put a comment down. Engage with the author. You don't know if that author is going to notice you and eventually reach out to you for something. So engage with the community that you want to be a part of. Because personal branding they're not isolated things. So you join a community with a personal brand. Personal branding gives you access into a community. It's who you are authentically. And you know what? It just keeps the doors open to opportunities that you're gonna like if it fits you.
I agree. And I think what you said, nail on the head. How do you discover your personal branding? How do you discover, how do you discover what people think about you? Best way is to ask your friends and colleagues. If I were to ask you 3 words to describe me, what do you think they are? Or reflecting on your life so far and think, what are the reasons or why do certain people come to me? Am I someone that people come to me when they want advice on finances? Or am I someone that people come to me for book recommendations or film recommendations? That's a very easy, authentic way to identify what your personal brand is.
Question: can you opt out of a personal brand? Can you not have a personal brand?
Yeah, 100%.
How?
I think, obviously, personal branding, like we said, first and foremost, it's something that's perceived as the image you create of yourself digitally online. So you don't need to have a social media presence. You don't need to have a social media profile. You don't need to be on a public account. You can have a private account. You don't need to have a glitzy, glamorous bio.
So let me give you the opposite side of the coin. I disagree with that. I think a personal brand you can't opt out of because, like we said, there is an element to it which is also physical, right? So for people who aren't online, then they'll often be actually more active offline in the sense that they'll probably be out a lot more. They'll be in events more in person and stuff. And I think people will then form a judgment on you, on who you are, again, from what you say, how you carry yourself, what you talk about, your clear interests, what you do, what you don't do. And I think naturally people will talk about you. Not intentionally. I'm saying when an opportunity comes up, when something, they'll say, you know what, Abdal's like that. So I personally think you can't opt out.
If you put it like that, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe not online, but if your name comes up in a discussion, naturally people will talk about you or share things about you. Yeah, exactly. And you may like it or not, and you may not intentionally put out that perception about you, but they may be like, cool. Same as you. Let's say you in medical school, even if you don't go around, Instagram, you weren't there, you weren't on it, but that narrative, that image of you still circulated in discussions and in groups, and you can't do anything about it. You can't ace your exams and do your own research and publish papers and be like, nah, that's not me.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you see what I'm trying to say? I think you can't opt out.
Again, then it makes this thing even more important. Is if in life, in society, people are going to be talking about you. Why not control that narrative? Why not build a brand that benefits you? Build a brand that's true to you. Because last thing you want is people discussing about you and it's not true, or it's, slanderous, or it's not the truth. Do you see what I mean? So you might as well build a brand because people are going to be talking about you anyway.
That reminds, someone said that on our podcast. I forgot who. They said basically, people are going to talk about you. Just make sure you control the narrative. Man working that works in Leave Health.
So she was like, people are going to talk about you. People are going to be saying stuff about you. You might as well control the narrative. You might as well tell them what to say so it benefits you.
Exactly. Why let them write about you, right? You write about yourself.
100%. Exactly. And I think that's a very interesting question. And I think as medical students, as junior doctors, or anyone for the like of it, I think it's worth building your personal brand, especially in this day and age. And I know in the future, when you're applying for a consultant job, when you're applying for a startup, people aren't just only going to look at your CV. They're going to be looking at your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn. They're going to be seeing what type of individuals you're. I know the CV is going to be redundant soon. It's going to be a formality. People will know.
It's an advantage, man. Think about it. If you're in a 10-minute interview, right, and the interviewer already knows you're creating content, you're clearly a designer as well and a photographer, and you know how to put out long articles that are very engaging, they've already learned a lot about you without you even opening your mouth. So when you open your mouth, now it's all about just adding the cherry on top, really.
I agree with you. I think the one thing me and you, we didn't do medical school, right? We were very by the book, very standard treadmill of life, going through it, right? And we never leverage ourselves. We never do the hacks and tricks, right? Personal branding is one of those things that you should do. It's something you can leverage for your own gain, for your own growth, for opportunities, right? And I think it's something everyone should pay attention to. I think something that you should think about consciously, like sit down, pen and paper, however you do it. Maybe everyone uses the Notion nowadays, and be like, this is the image I want to put out there of myself. This is who I am now. This is where I want to be, and let me leverage this. And that's how you become wealthier, happier, more successful, more relationships, right? Rather than just sitting there and thinking, do you know what, personal branding is a gimmick, is a buzzword no one cares about really.
Nice. Okay, so to now wrap up, right? What do you want your personal brand, when someone is talking about you in 10 years time, so picture yourself 10 years time, There's a group of people in a room, and your name comes up, and there's someone that knows you, right? What do you want them to be saying about you?
If I'm honest, long story short, it's not even about the entrepreneurship or stuff like that. I just want to be known as, you know what, he was a good guy. He was a decent guy.
What's a good guy?
No, a decent guy, good guy, as in like, at the end of it all, when people discuss him, like, you know what, he's a good guy. He managed to do something decent, build something like Peerr. Like, in 10, 15, 20 years time, if people can say, my dream, one of the things is basically for one day, the way people on YouTube share their Skillshare earnings, that, you know, I earn X amount this month, or you can earn whatever, right? And they use that money to live a better life, a happier life, buy gifts for their friends and family, right? I want one day for Peerr to be in a position where top 5 sources of passive income, or I was able to buy a car, or I was able to do this and that from my earnings from Peerr. Obviously, that's a big, big dream, right? And for people to one day say, do you know what? Him and Abdaal, he was a guy that built this, and because of that, so many people had a better life. They learned, you know, so much from their favorite educators, or they learned, you know, hematology, or they learned this and that, or they learned about the world of surgery, and at the same time, they got to buy a mama house because of Peerr, and they built that, right? That's something I feel, yeah, do you know what? That's it. I don't want labels.
But you will have labels. So okay, let me put the labels from that.
Labels,
Yeah, let me put the labels from. So someone who, you're describing someone who's basically honest in their work, right? So you're describing someone who's honest, and you want to give back. So you want to be someone who empowers communities around the world. And if we talk about which specific community, you want to empower education, because that's what's giving the skills to then get a job and earn money and then have a life after. So I get what you're saying. I
think it's that. It's the way I see it is, I see, like that statement we started in the beginning, it's the story they tell about you when you're not in the room. And I want my story to be, do you know what? This guy is someone that helped people get an education, upskill. He's someone that helped people, you know, earn a side income. He's someone that allowed them to get a cup of coffee every day for free because of the teaching they did. That's the story I want to be remembered for, right? And like you said, naturally, labels do come attached with that. So what about you? Flip it to you. What either the story or the labels?
So the story aspect is same, right? It's the same. It's that we have. That's why we're co-founders for Peerr, right? But I think there are a few things that I want to be known for. So optimism and positive energy is one of them, right? In the sense that I want to be someone who, and whoever I'm around, I want them to have an optimistic outlook on life. I want them to be positive. I want them to take opportunities that come. That's what I want. And to make the most of what we have, you know. So I listen to a lot of like podcasts on the theme of like happiness and things like that. And I often look at that, and I always think about making the most of what we have. Right, we've all been granted something, especially if you're watching this video. It just tells you already what you've got access to YouTube. So to make the most of it, positivity, optimism, and you're right, in terms of the story, it's that like I said, I want to be able to put education into the hands of everyone. That is crazy, that is absurd, but with Peerr, it is genuinely possible. Someone will be able to learn from someone. So for example, you went to King's College London, someone across the world who hasn't got access to university, you can transmit everything you know, every book you've read, every video you've watched, every course you've gone on to them directly through Peerr. If you can do that times by 1 million people, that is an incredible story. We'll see if we reach there. That's what I want to be known for.
I think this was a good discussion around personal branding, why it's so important, our thoughts on it. Let's say for someone that doesn't have personal brand or isn't really online, what are the things they can do to start building the personal brand? We talked about how you discover what your personal brand is and what people think about you. What's some practical steps that they can do? Let's say if they've watched this far of the video, you might as well give some beneficial stuff as well.
If you've reached this part of the video, here's some tips. So I think number one, so we made a video last week about social media presence. On is it useless, is it toxic, is it a tool, right? It's a tool in my opinion. Use these tools to put yourself out there, and then start with one, because it can get exhaustive, start doing every single one under the sun. Pick one that fits you, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Reddit's got a massive community, people don't like it. So pick a form that you like. Not all the forms are pictures and videos. So if you don't want to put your face out there, fine, use Twitter. Twitter doesn't use any videos and pictures. It's your thoughts. It's how you speak and what you talk about and what you comment, what discussions you have. And I think start to create. And I saw this on LinkedIn. I saw someone who said it was a long post, and at the end it pretty much ended with, I wish someone told me just do it, right? And in the same tone, and I would just say just do it. Put it out there, and you will improve the more you do. Twitter, for example, I think is brilliant for forcing you to be concise. You can't write absolute jargon upon jargon. You have to make it concise and clear, and you'll get better. So in the same tone, in the same words, just do it. Create posts, put yourself out there. So consume content because you learn like that, but then give back.
I think that's the important thing with personal branding. I think a lot of people just consume, but they never give back. They never share their thoughts. They never share their opinions. So when you are on a platform of choice, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it may be, while you're learning from other people, share the learning, share your reflection, share what you've learned from other people. Engage with them. I think the best way to build a personal brand is engaging with other communities, following the right people. That's also very important. You want to be following the right people that are also have a similar brand or similar interest to what you're doing. But engage. Don't be an individual that takes and never gives anything out. And I think we need to do the same. I have a bad habit of learning so much stuff on Twitter and books and whatever, but I never share, a lot of that knowledge. I just keep it, right? And that's not good, and it's selfish of us. So always give back.
Absolutely. I think that's it. Any other ending remarks?
I think it's something worth paying attention, definitely.
All right, so personal branding, it's clearly very important. People will talk about you, so why not control the narrative? We've gone through some tips on how to sort of form a personal brand, how to sort of find it, discover it, and then get it out there, and the positives and negatives of it. The other thing just want to shout out is the platform Peerr. It's a platform for healthcare professionals where they can learn from each other and they can earn a passive income. Check it out at www.peerr.io, and we'll see you in the next video.